The second item that I purchased was this sander. I actually had spotted this in one of the photos online before I got there, and as soon as I got there, I walked over and I grabbed that Do More tool post grinder, closed the box, brought it over to this table, put it on this table, and informed the worker there that I was going to be taking both of these items. This is a really good deal. This had a price of $35 on it. So same price as on the tool post grinder. So I think I ended up paying $30 a piece because I bought the two of them. And this came with this stand. It was on this stand. And then over here, right there, there was a motor mounted that just had a wire wheel on it with no shield or anything. So it was just kind of like a homemade wire wheel. And that had a separate price of $20 on it, and I didn't want that, so somebody else ended up buying that and unbolting it. And then this wasn't plugged in and running when I got it. It's a pretty neat job that somebody did making this table. I'll get to that in a moment. It's got a nice switch right here. It's marked GE Control, okay? But the funny thing about this switch box is the switch box is mounted. None of the knockouts are removed. There are no holes in it whatsoever. There's no wires coming in or out of it. It's almost as if somebody had mounted the switch with the intention of eventually wiring it up and never got around to it. Well, let's get a look at this sander. I actually have this all unbolted because I took this all apart so I could get it out of the basement. So this is a Toolkraft, spelled Toolkraft, and I believe it's a model 335A. So we'll get a closer look at that in a minute. I'll move that over to the bench where the lighting's better. But first, let's take a good look at this this base. So the sander just bolts down right here, and then there's a slotted hole for the belt to go down through to get to the motor, which is mounted underneath on an interesting mount that I'll show you in a moment. And this is part of the tensioning adjustment that actually somebody rigged up for that whole motor system. And the top is made out of a particle board, but I guess he didn't like how the particle board, the roughness of it, or for whatever reason, but he actually put a piece of almost what looks to be like masonite or press board, 1/4-inch piece on top of the particle board, and then bolted the whole thing down to the top. So it's actually pretty sturdy. When me and one of the assistants that works there were carrying this thing out, we were marveling at how heavy the damn base was, even with the sander off of it. And came to realize that this whole thing is made out of angle iron that's all been welded up. He's got another, this is a piece of plywood, even painted blue to match the table. For a shelf down here, that'll hold plenty of weight. So here's a look from the back side, and I got a kick out of this. What he's done, whoever built this, they used this pretty thick plate right here to really beef this up, and that's welded to this angle iron, and he's got square tubular stock bolted across to shore up this whole top here. I mean, this thing is just overbuilt. And then he bolted these long strap hinges to this piece, and he's hanging, this actually looks like a piece of a highway sign or a road sign, because it's got almost like that reflective looking material on it and some numbers on it. I don't know what the heck this was. I'm not sure what the material even is. It might be aluminum. And he's hanging the motor. Okay. He's got this motor hanging on this swinging deal here. And the way this works is when you bring it up into position like this and you put the belt on, one of the long threaded bolts that actually bolts the sander into position then has this piece right here that it looks like he made that threads onto the end of it. And then that gives you this adjustment rod right here. And I don't quite remember where on this motor this actually was hooked up, maybe right here. So it's a kind of a ingenious way that he rigged this thing up. So I haven't done any serious research on this yet. I'm kind of perplexed as to the age of this thing. It actually looks like it's a really good condition. There are several components on here that are plastic and make this look like a much more modern unit. But then there's just an overall look with the castings and everything that make it look like maybe it's an earlier unit, including the little Toolkraft tag here. And this is marked that it's a model 335A, but I searched that quite a bit and I wasn't able to find that many. I mean, all I was able to find was some of these for sale, but I didn't really find like any other really information on it. There's a serial number on here. Looks like it says PJY next to that model number, and then looks like that's a serial number 24420. But the most interesting thing to me about this is that it says 700 Plainfield Street, Chicopee, Massachusetts, which is kind of cool. That's only about 40 minutes from here. So I don't know whether or not this is a foreign-made unit that is imported and distributed by this Toolkraft out of Chicopee, Massachusetts, or whether or not this is actually something that was literally made in Chicopee, Massachusetts, which would make me think it would be older. So I've got it moved off to the edge of the bench a little bit here, because this part with where the dust shroud and the hose for the dust collection would hook up is actually sits down below the level of the base. So that's why there's a cutout on the back of that table that was made for it. But the platen, I think it's called. This is all cast iron. These knobs here, adjustment knobs for the roller tensioner, they're plastic. Rollers are all metal. This roller, yeah, I think that roller is cast steel or something, or cast aluminum. But this shroud right here is all plastic. Now this, for whatever reason, is really loose. And it's kind of weird because I can see this screw attaches this plastic piece to this metal piece. I don't know why. Let me just take this. All right. Oh, okay. So this is a plastic shroud that comes off. And, oh, there you go. This has a piece that sticks into this hole like that. So it looks like the only problem is that little screw right there is loose. Alright, that's all tightened up. Wondering if this might be a convertible sander, that you might be able to flip this whole thing up and make it a vertical mounted sander. There's one bolt right here. It looks like if you took it out, might allow this whole casting to actually swivel up, and I'm thinking that there's another hole back here. So let's see. Just for the heck of it, I think I'll take that bolt out and see what happens. So just over here on this side, there's this one bolt. And my theory is that if you have this bolt out, that this whole thing will swivel up. Alright, it starts to, but then it hits this stop. So I'm going to loosen this stop. Oh, I see that swivels out like that. You can change the angle of that. How cool is that? And then you reinsert the bolt and it goes into a different threaded hole. Oh, that is too cool for school. So you guys who do a lot of woodworking may have seen one this style, but I never have. So on the back you've got this big bolt that sticks up with a lock nut. So you can loosen this nut and you can change the height of this bolt. And that's actually a stop, so that when this thing is down, It actually controls, I guess, the angle of it. So what's got me scratching my head at the moment, though, is this big rod right here. It looks like there's supposed to be some kind of a set screw or something that goes in here that's missing. This has got a flat, so that would be for the set screw or thumb screw to that would be for the set screw or the thumb screw to screw into and lock this. So what's the purpose of this? Boy, I wonder whether or not there wasn't an entire table that mounted to that somehow. In other words, you know how there's a table over here on this disc side. I wonder if this wasn't designed so that you could take this off when you're not running it in the horizontal position and mount the table right here that, you know, gave you a larger table for running it as a vertical sander. So right there, turns out it's right on the Vintage Machinery website. So that means I could probably go to the site and find out all the info on the pedigree. But you can actually see that there was a special bracket that pivoted on that rod that supported a whole table. There's even a miter slot and a trunnion on the end there. So all of that was missing on this when I bought it. I shudder to think that that may have been laying around somewhere in that mess of stuff that was in that basement that I weeded through, and that I never realized that it went to this. I actually don't think I saw it. So if it was there, I never even saw it. And the other possibility is that this gentleman had acquired it, and it was already missing when he acquired it. So it's certainly not going to be very practical for me to use this as a vertical sander. You know, I have that Delta Rockwell that I plan on fixing up, and that's a more industrial grade sander. I think that'll better suit my needs. So, you know, do I really need another one for horizontal work? Well, I guess I could keep this over on the side if I want to do any woodworking and use it for woodworking only. But I don't know. I might just end up putting this on the market. We'll see. Oh, look at this. Just found this website. They claim that they have Toolkraft parts. I venture to guess from what I just read below that it's probably excess inventory from the manufacturing, and that it's going to be limited quantities, and some things probably just aren't available at all. It talks about the lathes and things like that, but it says right here, it says the Toolkraft of 700 Plainfield Street in Chicopee, Massachusetts, which is what this label on this sander says, closed its manufacturing facility in 1984. During its 50-plus year tenure in the power tool industry, they manufactured products under many names. Some of the brands they were responsible for are Toolkraft, Dara James, most of the Powercraft Montgomery Ward's power tools, such as table saws, drill presses, and sanders, band saws, and radial arm saws. Also a shaper and a jointer prior to 1980 under the DeWalt brand, and Black & Decker for Black & Decker or other brands bearing model numbers with the prefix THS. And it says if you're looking for parts for that, you can either call or email this department, I guess, and see if they have what you're looking for. Hey, cool. Here's one just like mine, previously sold on eBay for $175, and it's actually missing parts. It's missing more parts than mine is. So after buying those two items, I ducked my head into the next room and kind of off into the corner there with some stuff piled in front of it. You couldn't even get to it very well. I spotted this cabinet. So I immediately informed them I'd be interested in this cabinet even without looking at it up close, and settled on buying it for $30. So this is a nice cabinet. I've already put junk on top of it here because I was moving some stuff around in the shop. But this is a Steelmaster cabinet. So it says Steelmaster Art Steel Company of New York. And I think I've actually got one of my other cabinets might be a Steelmaster. But they made really good cabinets. This is a shorter one. You know, my other index cabinet, that big army gray one you guys have seen me mess with on some previous videos. This is only 40 inches tall, that actually works out well because I have a plan for when I finally decide to get things straightened out here in the shop. I've got an area here under the stairs that has a changing height as the stairs rise. So my plan is to tuck these things in side by side, going by height, with the shorter one closest, you know. You get the idea. So these are full slide, full extension drawers. There's rust in this bottom drawer. It looks like maybe they had some water problems in that basement. So other than that, it's not too badly banged up, and it's going to make a nice storage cabinet down here. And in case you're wondering how deep it is, it's pretty deep. It's about the depth of a regular filing cabinet. 26.5 inches. Then in the same room, not too far from the boiler in that cabinet, I spotted this box, and lo and behold, what's sitting inside of it? A spin indexer. And I think it's a phase 2. And I actually think this is brand new. I don't think this has ever been used. Yeah, it's definitely, it's marked, it's a phase 2. Stock number 225-20A, or is it 225-204? And it says Syracuse, New Jersey, no, Secaucus, New Jersey, but it says made in Taiwan. And I knew that as soon as I saw that it was phase 2, that it was going to be a Chinese-made deal. But this thing looks brand new, and the box was just sitting there open, and this was kind of like half out of it. It wasn't in there properly. And then behind it on the floor, I found the actual rest of the styrofoam. So I got the complete shipping box. This is the original box. Apparently the gross weight was 7 kilograms. Base dimensions. Oh, there you go, 225-204, 2 3/4 inch. Phase 2, 5C spin indexer. So it uses 5C collets, made in China. We get a little Yantai Machine Tools and Accessory Works. Well, I guess that tells you exactly which plant made that. And then here's some basic information on operating instructions on this thing. 5C spin indexer. Oh, look at this. I think this is the original invoice. Now this is an invoice for some collets it looks like he bought from Penn Tool Company in Springfield. Let's see, on Springfield Avenue in Maplewood, New Jersey. Lindex 5C collet, 5/8 inch. Lindex R8 round collet, 3/8 inch. And actually this is just a packing slip. It doesn't even say what he paid, so I don't know why that was in there. I'm going to get rid of that because that has the name and address of the person who passed away that this estate sale basically was their home. Now I don't even need a spin indexer. I already have 1 or 2 of them. But the reason why I bought it was because I figured, you know, why leave it for those other vultures that were in there, especially that guy who I beat out on the tool post grinder, who made it clear to me when he bought the Travadile that his game was basically buying and reselling. So this still has like that goop that they put on there to keep it from corroding. So I have every reason to believe that this has actually never been used. I've got my paperwork upstairs because I kept track of everything I bought at the sale that day. And I'll have to verify to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that I only gave like 20 or 25 bucks for this thing. Oh, so I grabbed my little cheat sheet that has all the prices I paid for everything. It's a running total that they kept adding to as I bought more items. And turns out I paid 20 bucks for that Phase 2 spin indexer. Geez, seeing that list just reminded me that this was actually the first item that I bought. Not the tool post grinder. As I walked by this table that was loaded with various items that were in little cases, many of them were open and I could see them, and several of them clearly were cases that were homemade, For instance, it was actually a pretty nicely executed cylindrical square, but the fact that it had no maker's name on it and actually had the homeowner's initials stamped into it indicated to me that there was a good possibility that it was not a factory made one, something he may have made at work. There was some other stuff there. There was a Gerstner toolbox, the entire Gerstner oak toolbox with the stuff that was in it was only 90 bucks. A guy snagged that pretty early. Not that I couldn't have had it, I just decided to pass on it because I had already seen the contents and realized that there wasn't anything. You know, there's some micrometers and stuff in there, but nothing really to get too excited about. But this caught my eye, especially because it had a price of 18 bucks on it.